What really went down when Vikings clashed? Forget the Hollywood version with perfectly braided beards and dramatic horn music. No slow-motion axe swings, no poetic death speeches, just the brutal, muddy, terrifying reality. If you've wondered what it was actually like to stand in a Viking shield wall, prepare yourself for the truth. Picture this. You're a Norse warrior, and the battle horn sounds, except you can barely hear it over your own heartbeat. That horn blower? He's positioned with the standard bearers, probably wondering if he should have chosen farming instead. Even the musicians knew that staying near the rear ranks was wise, though in Viking warfare, nowhere was truly safe. Within the first chaotic moments, many of your shield wall would stumble. Viking battlefields weren't manicured lawns, they were boggy meadows, rocky shores, or frozen ground. You didn't charge like the sagas describe. You shuffled forward in a terrified huddle, knees shaking from standing in formation since dawn. The berserker next to you hadn't bathed in weeks and kept muttering prayers to Odin. Medieval hygiene was optional, which explains why Vikings yelled so much. It was the only way to breathe without gagging. Everyone roared war cries, but most couldn't tell you what they shouted. Modern studies of combat stress show that fighters often make sounds they don't remember afterward. Then came the shield crash. Someone slammed into your linden wood shield with the force of a charging bull. Your ears rang, your arm went numb, and the noise was overwhelming. Not heroic saga music, but a cacophony of grunts, screams, and wood splintering against bone. 3 minutes in, your elaborate battle plan dissolved into one goal. Don't fall down. Falling meant being trampled or finished off. The ground became slick with blood and vomit. Your arms burned from holding your shield. Viking armor turned you into a personal oven where you either lost 20 pounds of sweat or your head, whichever came first. Your world shrank to the few feet in front of your shield. You stared into the wild eyes of some Danish raider who looked just as terrified as you felt. In that moment, you both agreed that whoever promised glory and Valhalla deserved to be fed to the ravens. If you survived that initial crash, now you experienced real Viking combat. Forget elegant sword duels, this looked like a violent tavern brawl with sharp objects. Vikings didn't fight with honor, they fought to go home alive. Real Viking strategy was get 3 friends to hack at him while he's distracted. 4-on-1 wasn't poor sportsmanship, it was intelligent warfare. The shield wall made proper weapon work nearly impossible. Crammed shoulder to shoulder, you had maybe 8 inches to move your axe. Most combat involved awkwardly chopping forward like splitting kindling in a closet. Analysis of Viking burial sites shows most fatal wounds came from above. What happened when someone fell and others piled on? Viking philosophy. If he's down, make sure he stays down. Your axe handle often proved more useful than the blade. Vikings called this axe wrestling. Flip your weapon and use it like a club. Viking helmets saved lives but created problems. They limited vision and could become stifling during extended combat. The metal conducted heat from the sun, making them uncomfortable after prolonged wear. Smart warriors knew when to don them for protection and when fresh air was more important than armor. If you went down, you had maybe 3 seconds before boots found soft spots. Many skeletons are found face down in mud, not glorious deaths, just suffocation after tripping. Viking weapons weren't museum pieces. They were brutal tools for getting through whatever stood between you and your enemy's organs. Battle axes were wood-cutting tools modified to chop through shields and bone. Any farmer could swing one effectively. The problem? Once stuck in something, they often stayed stuck. Many axe wielders died trying to wrench weapons free. Spears dominated battlefields. They formed the backbone of most Viking forces. They were economical to produce and effective with basic training. You could threaten someone from several feet away. The downside? In tight shield walls, long weapons became unwieldy. Accidental injuries to your own side were a real concern when everyone was packed together with sharp objects. Swords get saga glory but were rare. They cost a fortune. A good blade could buy several cattle. Only jarls and successful raiders owned them, and they broke regularly. Nothing ruins your heroic moment like your sword snapping, leaving you with an expensive metal stub. Then came improvised weapons. Farm tools turned deadly. Threshing flails, pitchforks, boat oars appeared when desperation called. Defending farmers and pressed levies fought with whatever they could grab. Death by agricultural implement wasn't saga-worthy, but it was permanent and deeply embarrassing to explain to the Valkyries. Those weapons were designed to tear through human bodies, and tear they did. Mail helped, but it wasn't invincible. It could turn aside glancing blows and slashing attacks. But a direct strike from an axe or heavy weapon, the force would transfer through the links, and sometimes the mail itself would be driven into wounds. Archaeological evidence from Viking graves shows warriors died despite wearing armor. Protection had its limits. A solid axe blow could take an entire arm. Viking weapons hacked and mangled. Most who lost limbs died from blood loss or infection days later. Blood loss happened frighteningly fast. Losing just 2 pints caused unconsciousness. Many Vikings bled out in under 4 minutes. Sometimes you didn't realize you were hit until your vision grayed. Internal injuries were worse than cuts. A mace blow might not break skin but could rupture organs. Small cuts became serious threats due to infection. Battlefield wounds had a way of turning deadly days or weeks later. Many who survived the initial fighting succumbed to fever and corruption of their wounds afterward. There were no battlefield physicians as we'd recognize them. Healing fell to whoever had some knowledge, maybe a woman skilled in herbs or warriors who'd seen enough wounds to know basic treatment. Battlefield medicine meant binding wounds, applying pressure to bleeding, and hoping for the best. Most treatment involved stopping the bleeding and keeping wounds clean when possible. The battlefield was a mental hellscape no mead hall boasting could prepare you for. After the initial clash, many warriors experienced complete disorientation. The chaos, noise, and movement made it nearly impossible to maintain formation or direction. Some battles dissolved into confusion, with both sides unsure who was winning or where the fighting had shifted. "Is that guy with me or against me?" became crucial. Clan identifiers quickly got covered in blood and mud. In the heat of battle, warriors sometimes struck at their own allies by mistake. The fog of war was very real and very deadly. You'd be drenched in blood without knowing the source. Spray from nearby kills covered you head to toe. Combat decisions became automatic. The brain couldn't process information fast enough. Bodies fought while minds fled elsewhere, like driving home and not remembering the last mile except you might have killed 6 people. Vision narrowed to tunnels. You stopped seeing people and swung at shapes and movement. Time warped. Hours felt like minutes, or minutes like hours. Sagas glorify last stands, but most Vikings were practical warriors who valued survival. When battles turned against them, many chose tactical withdrawal over pointless death. This wasn't seen as cowardice, it was wisdom. Vikings said, "The ravens feast on the foolish. The wise live to fight again." Many feigned death or sought cover when overwhelmed. Some saga accounts tell of warriors using clever ruses to survive hopeless situations, hiding among the fallen, playing dead, or using the terrain to escape notice. Survival often required as much cunning as courage. Running in Viking gear was exhausting. Many were caught because they ran out of breath in armor. Viking victory wasn't triumphant warriors raising axes. It was far less glorious. If you were breathing when fighting stopped, you won. That was it. No ceremonies, just relief at continued existence. No heroic cheering. Most survivors collapsed, too exhausted to celebrate. The typical victory cry was, "Is it over? Please tell me it's over." The battlefield became a marketplace. Weapons and armor were stripped from the dead. Even boots were taken. Vikings pioneered battlefield recycling. You celebrated by drinking to numb pain. One chronicler noted Vikings drank for 4 days straight, washing the taste of battle from their mouths with rivers of ale. Field treatment for the wounded was basic but sometimes effective. Those with healing knowledge did what they could, binding wounds, stopping bleeding, offering what comfort was possible. Recovery depended on the severity of injuries, the warrior's constitution, and no small amount of luck. Sleep came fitfully, interrupted by phantom attacks. Nothing says successful warrior like waking up swinging at ghosts, accidentally punching your wife while fighting dream enemies. Somewhere in churned mud, broken spears lay beside shattered shields. Battlefields grew over with grass, occasionally giving up rusted iron to farmers' plows centuries later. What Scalds called glorious victory was just the beginning of a different battle, against pain, loss, and the knowledge of what humans could do when war horns sounded. The truth about Viking battles? They were brutal, chaotic, terrifying experiences most would rather forget. But that's not the story told around the fire, is it?